Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's tournament week, and we got stuff going all kinds of places here. Amedeus, you want to take a look at what happened last night and anything that pops out to you that piqued your fancy or perhaps surprised you from last night's games that we had on the docket?
Yeah, definitely. There was some interesting scores. I don't know if you noticed, Villanova almost got kicked out by DePaul. They ended
Mm-hmm.
up winning by one, but really they won the game on almost a buzzer beater 3-pointer. They scored that with no time, 2 seconds left on the clock or something like that. And yeah, that was. I really thought I was watching the end of that game. I really thought DePaul was maybe gonna pull it out because we've talked about how this Villanova team is
Mm-hmm.
it's not a tournament team, and sure enough, they showed it in that DePaul game. I don't see them going very deep into the tournament. Another big upset that happened last night, which fills my heart with joy, is La Tech was knocked out by Middle Tennessee, which
There you go.
I've been talking a lot this season about how I thought Sam Houston was the best team in that
Mm-hmm.
conference. They finished ahead of La Tech in the regular season, and
Yeah,
I even told you after the show
you
yesterday
did.
that I had a plus 500 future on them to win this tournament. So yeah, that
That's
shot
looking
right up.
better. Yeah,
Yeah, looking a lot better now that La Tech's out.
yeah.
Sam Houston is the best team left in that tournament, and they're gonna win this thing.
K-State and Texas had a battle royal going on in the Big 12 last night, and K-State was able to hold on. Um, I mean, Texas Texas resume is not looking as good as it might have to make it to the NCAA tournament. Um, and Kansas looked terrible last night. Now we mentioned that their two best players are not available, um, and and in the pre-show we talked about it. I don't know if you apply the FSU test, right? That they're good, they're undefeated, but their star player isn't playing. So why should we put them in the playoffs? I don't know that if the NCAA tournament uh, selection committee looks looks at Kansas objectively. Kansas is not an NCAA tournament team. Not without those guys.
Yeah,
They last night they looked terrible.
it's going to be interesting to see what happens with
Yeah,
Kansas. Personally, I don't see a world where they get left out of the tournament, but
you're probably right.
it's definitely an interesting situation just because they have the quality wins on the resume. They beat Houston. They were one of the few teams to beat Houston at home,
Right.
or in their house anyway. In Kansas's home, I mean. But
Right.
yeah, it was one of those that you could make the case they're not a tournament team, especially with the way they played against Cincinnati last night, who almost
Mm.
lost to West Virginia in the game before. So this is going to be very interesting to see what they do with this Kansas team. Like I said, I don't see them getting left out of the tournament, but I don't see them going deep once they get in there, and they're not going to be a high seed either, especially
Right.
if they're missing those key players.
Those
I think
those
it will
players.
affect their seeding at least.
For sure. All right, we're going to take a deviation just for a moment. We're going to jump over uh, in golf, and I say this because I want you guys to the highlights of this. I want you just there are going to be plenty of opportunities to see it. But Ryan Fox, who's from New Zealand, made history today at the Tournament Players Championship. He eagled the 16th and aced the 17th. Okay, he's the 14th player to ace the 17th, but he's the first to go eagle ace on 16 and 17. That is just ridiculous. I mean, that is, you know, this guy this guy can probably drink for free in New Zealand for the rest of his life because of these two holes. Now, he had a horrible front nine. So, he's not really up on the leaderboard, but Ryan Fox, you got to watch those two highlights. You're going to see him all over the place. But if you're a golf fan, you know these two holes because they're iconic from the many times we've seen them on television. But the Eagle 16 and Ace the 17th, I would have just quit right there. I'd have stopped. I just said, I'm not playing any more golf ever again. This is it.
Don't need to ruin it with the 18th hole. Let's just we'll finish one hole early. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm
big
stepping out.
congrats to Ryan Fox for that. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously it's a great feat to accomplish.
right.
And hey, I mean, you said he had a bad first front nine. Well, that's a hell of a way to get yourself back in.
Yeah,
Nice 4-stroke swing right there, and
right.
even at 4 over, you'd find yourself back at even. So he could. It's going to be hard to replicate that on the next few days, but
You think? Yeah,
we'll see. Yeah, definitely. Big congrats to him. It's always nice to see stuff like that.
right. That it, it's just amazing. It's amazing. The leaders at the moment, Xander Schauffele is tied with Rory McIlroy at 7 under, and they have finished for the day. Both of them shot 65s, and Nikki Taylor is -6. Tom Hodge is -5. Jason Day is -5. All of those have finished, and so Ludwig Alberg and Nate Lashley are -5. Nate Lashley is the only one who is still on the course. He's on the 15th. And Taylor Montgomery, Michael Kim at 4 under. They've finished. Step Staka is 4 under. He's finished. And let's see, anybody else that's on the course? Yeah, Christian Bowsout at 3 under is finished, and Lee Hodges is finished at 3 under. Let's see if there's anybody on the course that has a chance left. No, everybody who's on the course at this time. All right, Denny McCarthy. That's a name I'm not familiar with, but anyway, Denny is at 2 under. He's on the 4th hole. So he's got, he's right now is the player. He's tied for 9th. He's the player who has the who is still on the course. So that's where we are in the players. McIlroy and Scheffel is tied for the lead at 7 under par at the TPC at Sawgrass. So there's your golf this afternoon. This afternoon, college basketball, as Amadeus reminded me, Kent State and Toledo in the MAC tournament, which is being played at the Rocket Mortgage Center in Cleveland, is a relatively local team. Kent State's right down the street. They're 16-16. They took out the number 1 seed in Toledo, who was 20-12, and that's kind of muddles things up. When you get a first, a number 1 seed like a Toledo knocked out, it does it likely takes a an at-large bid off the board because Toledo will probably be in there, and so how we'll see how that plays out. St. Joseph's continues their run. They took out number 1 Richmond in the Atlantic 10 tournament, 66-61. Bowling Green and Central Michigan right now are playing each other, with Bowling Green up early, 24-23. That game is nearing the half with 3 minutes to go in the half. Early in the second half, it is Texas Tech blowing BYU out by a score of 60-38. That game's on ESPN2. On ESPNU at the moment, 65-64 East Carolina and Tulsa. The winner of that game will be playing tomorrow against South Florida. There's 9:04 left to go in that game. ESPNU. On the SEC network, 29-28 LSU over Mississippi State right now. Couple other finals. UConn, who was tied with Xavier at the half, blew them out in the second half, 87-60. Michigan State continues to make a case for themselves at 18-13 to make the tournament. They beat another 18-13 team. That was Minnesota. And Florida State got just when it finished. Carolina beat Florida State by a score of 92-67. So the Noles are not heading anywhere soon in the tournament. So that's where we are right now. A lot of good games last night. Plenty of good stuff coming up today as well. The Pac-12 tournament. Utah looked good last night in the Mountain. There's some good play there last night as well. So we have some quality basketball being played here.
Yeah, definitely, and specifically tomorrow is really when we're going to have all those
Mm-hmm.
lot of ranked teams, and
Yep.
the big shiny schools playing, just because all these teams we haven't seen yet because of all the buys. Now they're going to
Right.
start getting introduced tomorrow. Obviously, the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
We see Houston today, so there's a few trickling in today. But yeah, it's like the SEC tournament. We're going to start to see more of these going into Friday and Saturday. And
Mm-hmm.
as of right now, I think there's only one game scheduled for tomorrow because we don't know who's going to play yet. So it's one of those, right?
Yeah.
It's that time of year where everyone's just eagerly waiting till tonight for all the final scores to come in, just to see who's playing tomorrow and what the lines will be, and how these tournaments might shape up to end.
It's funny, Amadeus. Having done the tournament myself for 4 years, I directed the NCAA tournament and did conference tournaments for longer than that. Conference tournaments, the one fun thing about it, and you brought this up just a minute ago, which is actually quite interesting. Not knowing, right? You don't know who you're going to play if you're a higher seed. I can guarantee you that at this game today, for instance, we talk about USF. I guarantee that they're sitting there in the stands watching that game.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they're cheering for one side or the other, but they're simply, they're watching the game, and uh, a number of different teams are, seeded teams are probably in the same boat. At other conferences, I'm sure Florida is sitting there watching today and going to watch a team that they're going to play because they're going to play tonight, and you want to know who potentially you're going to play, and some of the seeded teams get the opportunity to see that. We saw St. Joseph's, right, who's now won 2 games in a row in the tournament. They're still going to have to win 2 more games to make it to win the A10 title. And so, we'll find out if they have the legs to play it in games on Saturday and Sunday. Or I'm sorry, on Friday and Saturday. So it's we're seeing some teams advancing, and we'll see how good it gets for them. The ACC, of course, Carolina is playing for possibly a 1 seed if they were to able to ace out that ACC tournament. It'd be hard not to keep them off the 1 line.
Yeah, definitely. North Carolina, we talked a bit about this yesterday. Then Tennessee and Arizona, they're all going to be looking for style points in this in these conference tournaments, and it's pretty much safe to say, unless all 3 were to lose. But I think at this point, it's safe to say, whichever one loses in the tournament is likely going to be a team that's not considered for that number 1 seed. So it's very important to all those teams. And as far as I'm concerned, if all 3 win their tournaments, I'd say Tennessee is probably the best team, but that's why we play the games. If Tennessee is scraping by some of these games, and we see North Carolina, win every game by 20 points up to the finals and blow someone like Duke out in the finals or something like that, then, as you said, that might be enough to play themselves into that number 1 seed. So definitely a lot to look at. It's not often where you get that 4th number 1 seed hasn't really been sealed
Decided,
down,
yeah.
really. Yeah. So it's definitely, it brings some extra motivation and competition to these tournaments. So always exciting to see that as well.
Yeah, you and I spoke yesterday about Pitt and Wake Forest, and can they both make it, right? And it doesn't look right now like they can, but Pitt and Wake Forest play each other at 2:30 on ESPN2, and um, that should be a fantastic game because it's a 4-5 game. Pitt's 21-10, Wake is 20-12, and you have to think that the winner of that is they're the ones that aren't going to sweat it out on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, and so obviously, Pitt gets a bit of an advantage here
Mm-hmm.
with the rest. But when I checked earlier this morning, Wake Forest was a 1.5 point favorite. So they really
Mm-hmm.
do view like this is a game that could go either way, and it's probably going to be a game
Yeah,
where it goes right down to
to the wire. Yeah.
right down to the buzzer. Maybe it takes a buzzer beater to send one team over the other. So that's going to be an exciting one to watch. These are the games with these tournaments, right? It's more than just winning the tournament. There's bubble teams that are looking
Mm-hmm.
to play their win. Another bubble one earlier, we got St. John's and Seton Hall playing each other later today.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's another game that's huge for the bubble because obviously,
Mm-hmm.
got Rick Pitino doing the rounds trying to talk his team up the last few weeks, and
Right.
you got Seton Hall's actually got the resume to support
To prove it.
themselves,
Yeah.
to prove their team worthy of it. So it's going to be interesting. Again, extra motivation for both sides there. They know they need to make a splash, and seeing the way Villanova fumbled the ball yesterday and just barely
Got by.
get by a team like DePaul. I think that also puts some fear in these teams as well. Like earlier when Richmond got kicked out,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that puts some fear in teams like Dayton and Loyola
Yeah.
and VCU who
Right.
were top 4 teams in the conference. They see Richmond go down and they say, all right, that's one problem out of the way, but let's not get that could happen to us. Let's
Yeah.
not F
Don't get too
around here.
cocky. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely one of those where it's always exciting this time of year.
Well,
Just
the other part of this, which is going to be fun, and that's a 2:30 game on Fox Sports 1. Is Seton Hall and St. John's playing at Madison Square Garden? That place is going to be rocky. Obviously St. John's is a Manhattan school, and Seton Hall is right across the bridge in Jersey. So definitely that place is going to be big. And much as one of the things that I mean, one of the things that's possibly the most entertaining aspect here is this is one of those places where Rick Pitino he was the coach of the Knicks. He was, Providence's coach. People in the New York area know Rick. They love Rick. And so he's going to have, he's going to have, quite a following in St. John's, side today at the Garden. So it's going to be Seton Hall and St. John's, and the Garden's going to be rocking. It's going to be a lot of fun. Wisconsin and Maryland play. Maryland is a 500 team. It's really surprising because normally Maryland has done better in basketball. They haven't had a good season this year. 19-12. They're taking on Wisconsin. That's a Big Ten network game. That's a 2:30 tip. Massachusetts and VCU got just underway. VCU up on Mass, 11-9. It's very early. We talked about Wake and Pitt. Wake also at 2:30. Excuse me, on ESPNU. It's Wichita State and Memphis, and Memphis is the darlings for some reason of many people thinking they are going to find a way to win the AAC tournament, despite the fact that they're the 5th seed.
Yeah, and it would be great to see Wichita State kick them out here. That would be that would be a gift like no other for sure. Because then I would
Yep.
love to see how many bids the conference gets by that point. But
Yeah.
as you said, it's probably going to be the two teams that get to the finals. So
Hmm.
that again, we talked about this yesterday. How this is going to be one of those conferences where it's so important to make a deep run because
Hmm.
who gets into the NCAA tournament is going to be solely based
Right.
on what teams do well in this, because apparently the regular season didn't matter in the
Didn't
AAC.
count.
It
Yeah.
didn't even happen. Actually, it
Right.
was just right. It was just
It's a mirage. Yeah.
all those results you saw. Those games weren't actually played. It was just a fiction novel. Someone wrote it
Right.
up. They thought it'd be a nice story. South Florida, winning 16
Hmm.
straight games, 16-1 in the conference. It's all fiction. So
There you
like I
go.
said, this tournament is gonna be everything for these teams, and it's gonna be an exciting one to watch.
Oh, 100%. And look, don't sleep on Wichita State. Wichita State, year in and year out, has had quality team. Now they're 14 and 18 this year, okay, which is not a typical Wichita State team. But in the in what used to be the old Missouri Valley Conference, Wichita State was, pretty much a perennial tournament team. So they have a history and they have, a pedigree there that is every bit, as bold as Memphis. So, is Memphis going to roll by Wichita State? We'll find out. But, I wouldn't be surprised if Wichita State gave them a pretty good game. That's on ESPNU. As I said before, tip it's at 2:30. 3 o'clock on CBS Sports Network is going to be. We're going to see Utah State of the Mountain West and Fresno State. So we'll see how that plays out. That tip again, 3 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Jackson State and Texas Southern in the SWAC conference that game at 3 o'clock. Also tipping at 3 on ESPN is number 1 ranked Houston and TCU. That I think Houston will get there, but TCU, the Horned Frogs, who knows? 3 p.m. on the Pac-12 network is number 1 Arizona and number 9 USC. USC, a 15 and 17 team taking on number 1 um, in the conference, Arizona at 24 and 7, and we'll see. That's at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. Again, that game's on the Pac-12 network. 3:30 is Arkansas, South Carolina. South Carolina is a 5 seed. Arkansas, we talked about yesterday, could be one of those bubble busters. They're a good team, but South Carolina just keeps chugging along. That's on the SEC network. 4 o'clock on ESPN Plus is Akron, who's the number 2 seed, and we talked about earlier that the number 1 seed is out, and now the number 2 seed, number 1 Toledo's out of the MAC tournament in Cleveland, and Miami of Ohio is coming in. You got to believe, by the way, Akron probably has a really good crowd on their side because it's not too far up the interstate to Cleveland from Akron. And Loyola of Chicago, Sister Jean, is taking on St. Bonaventure at 5 o'clock. That game will be on USA. So those are the early games, and we'll get back to some others there. Any one of those? I know we both like the Utah State. Houston, I don't know if that. I mean, I don't think Houston's going to have much trouble with TCU. SC, who knows what the hell is going to happen with them against Arizona. But if Arizona wants that 1 seed that we talked about, they're going to have to show. This is where style points are important.
Well, that's an interesting game just because the Arizona's last game they played was that loss to USC at the end of the
Yeah.
season. So
Yep.
they've been sitting on that.
Yep.
USC, I mean, they played last night, so obviously on the back to back here, they did beat Washington, but Washington is Washington. There's a reason they were
Right.
in that game playing USC, and
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, USC beat them a few days ago. Let's see if they can beat them in the game that matters, though, because
Right,
this
the one
is
that
we
counts.
we've talked a lot about how they got all these odds for USC in the
Hmm.
NCAA tournament, but at the end of the day, they have to win this tournament to get there. There is no chance in hell they have if they don't
Yeah.
win this tournament. They cannot be in the tournament the way they've played this season.
Oh no, no. Real quick, couple of coaches firings. I mean, all you have to do is, you're out of the tournament now. We can fire you. Um, Vanderbilt has fired Jerry Stackhouse as their head basketball coach, and Oklahoma State fired Mike Boynton. Those jobs are now open. Believe me, there will be more once these conference tournaments are over. But Jerry Stackhouse at Vandy is gone, and Oklahoma State gets rid of Mike Boynton. So there's those are just in. We know that Louisville yesterday fired their head coach, and they're going to want a big name to take that job. There's no question about it, and we'll see just who gets the Louisville job. That's a job where they expect to be playing for national championships every year, and you know it's something that I imagine, and Louisville's got a lot of money in that athletic department. So they're very successful. So I'm going to guess that they're going to swing for the fences and see if they can get themselves a top name coach to take that job.
And
And
as they should,
yeah,
Jim, because
yeah,
they've really been the punching bag of the ACC these last
yeah.
few years. And hell, I have faith in Louisville to make a good decision with the coach here, because we just saw them turn the football program around with
Hmm.
one coaching hire in the first season. So
Yeah.
there's no reason why they can't put their brains together and pick the right guy for this situation. So I'm optimistic for the future of Louisville, just because we saw it with the football team.
Hmm.
There's no reason why we can't replicate it with the basketball team. We've seen it many times. You
Yeah.
just need the right guy who's going to bring in the right system and the right
Hmm.
players for it.
Well, you brought up a good point. Okay, the right players. Okay, now we have we've been on our the USF Bulls for a while here, and Coach Akeem he brought in 3 players that played with him at Kennesaw State. Okay, then of course through the portal brought other players as well, and that crafted together a roster. It's not uncommon now for these name head coaches to bring the players with them. So, they show up with a player or two. I mean, we can go back over on the football side. Look at what Lincoln Riley did. He brought what in essence was a Heisman Trophy quarterback with him when he got the job at USC. So, and look at the pipeline that Coach Frisch is bringing up to Washington. I mean,
Yeah, the entire team.
he's bringing. They're just changing helmets. So I mean, it now the way it works, it's not uncommon for that to happen. So very interesting on what's going to happen with that job at Louisville, and I wouldn't be surprised if the guy who gets the job is someone who uh, is a person who can bring some players with them.
Yeah, and I think it's something that definitely translates onto the court, just
Hmm.
as we've seen with South Florida. When you look at it, people will look at, first season of a new coach,
Hmm.
brand new roster. This team's not ready this year. But when you look into it, bringing those 3 players is huge,
Yeah,
because those are already guys he knows. He
right.
knows how they've played. He coaches them, and the players, it's the same vice versa. The players know the coach the
Mhm.
coach, what the coach expects from them, and they know their role on the team.
Sure.
And it's a lot easier also to build the team with the portal when you're bringing those 3 players, because instead of
Mhm.
starting from scratch, it looks on paper like you're starting from scratch, but really you're not. You're not starting from scratch, because you're talking about now bringing in 3 potential starters who
Mhm.
know the defensive system. They know the
Mhm.
style that the coach wants to play. And the
Right.
coach is going to, do his part, bring in the correct players to fit that
Mhm.
system, play well with the players he knows, he knows their capabilities. Yes, he's going to have to learn the capabilities of the new players, and the new players are going to have to
Mhm.
learn the expectations. But now you have 3 teammates that can help you on the court
Right.
learn the defensive system, learn the style of play. It's everything's a learning curve, and it makes it that much more expedited when the coach is bringing players with them, because not only the coach is going to coach them, but these players are going to say, yeah, I've been with him, X amount of years. This is what he wants. This is what you need to do right on the court. This is how you can contribute in the best way. So that's really what separates good teams from bad teams,
Sure.
right? Because there's 2 different coaching styles. There's, there's the coaching style of, let me just grab all the talent I can and
Mhm.
see if it sticks. And then there's the other way where, maybe I'm not getting the best talent available, but I'm getting what fits the system and what's going to play well together.
Well, that's a very good point. There there's system coaches, and there are, guys who go out. We'll give you one. Okay, John Calipari. Um, when John was, winning all those games at Kentucky, John was a one and done guy, right? He didn't care if you wanted to be into the NBA. As a matter of fact, he recruited you and said, "Look, I can get you to the NBA. There's no question about it. But, you got to buy in." All right. So most of those guys were one and done, maybe two and done, right? That's the way he coached. Patino, speaking of Louisville, I mean, Louisville over a decade ago took a flyer on Rick, and he was a system guy. He recruited people to play in his system, and that's what he wanted to do. So you had 2 guys in the same state, one who was a one and done, and, here's how we do it, and the other is, here's my system, here's how we work it this way. So, it is, you know, you can have success either way, but it just the way things are going these days, not that many teams, at least not many of the teams that are challenging for championships, have the luxury of having, you know, um, a team that stays together at least for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and that's, part of the NIL deals have kind
Yeah,
of disrupted that a bit.
helped a
But
little bit. Yeah.
yeah, it has helped a bit as well. But
Hmm.
it depends on the teams, right? Like FAU is a great example. That's
Hmm.
a team that returned 95% of their team from last season. And, maybe they're not as good because people are expecting them now,
Right.
but it's one of those things where this is, their capabilities. This is a great team, and they all came together and decided, we can win. We feel confident in ourselves. Let's run it back another year instead of everybody go their separate ways and try to do what's best for myself. So it is nice to see that team element is still there, because that's what I think is so important. We've seen it many times. I use Luton Town in the Premier League as an example, but I've seen it
Hmm.
so many times. The Raptors, when they won the NBA championship years ago, were that kind of team where it's not about the guys you have, it's about the way you play as a team and what you can do together on the court. There's a ton of teams where I'll see, like, this is something that's an indication on how you play. I'll look at assists. I'll look at
Hmm.
how many assists certain players got throughout the game, and there's certain teams where 2 assists leads the team, and that's a team you can tell that's just talent trying
Hmm.
to do whatever they can do to win the game. Whereas I'll see a team where maybe one guy has 8 assists, another guy has 6 assists, and that tells me that's a team that plays like a team. They move the ball, and it's about It's not about who has the ball in what situation. Anybody can score on the team. It's about creating a scoring opportunity and creating a situation where one of us can put the ball in the basket. So definitely, it's two different styles for sure.
Yep. Well, Dusty May, who coaches FAU, is on the list of potential coaches for Louisville, and he's got an interesting background. I mean, he started as a student assistant for Bob Knight at Indiana, so he's paid his dues, and he's done a fantastic job. You got to figure. Look at he took an FAU team from Conference USA to the NCAA tournament last year to the Final Four, and he didn't skip a beat when they moved that team to the American. They finished a very strong second in the American, and so you got to think, well, Dusty May's on the short list. Does that mean he's going to get the job? No, it just means he's on the list to take Kenny Payne's place at Louisville. But I would think there are coaches who have jobs in Power Five, leagues right now who would be happy to get that Louisville job.
Yeah, and Dusty May is a guy I could see taking that job just
Mm-hmm.
because obviously he's got most of his guys returning from last year, and that's a
Right.
big reason why they're so good. But it was lucky that they even got them all to return this year. It was
Right.
more so the players came together and decided, we went to the Final Four. We can do some damage. Let's run it back one more year.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen after this season. It's very there's some very good chances that this is the last year of this specific FAU team. And if those players, decide to go to the draft or whatever they do after this, then yeah, if you're not returning essentially what was the same team you've had the last two seasons, it wouldn't shock me at all if he wanted to leave and because you're going to be restarting at FAU anyway, and you did your part and got them into a stronger conference. So now, hand the reins off and go see if you can go to a bigger conference and make an impact there in a rebuild situation.
Well, I mean, it's very likely that if Dusty were to go, he could take the remnants of his FAU team with him. Whatever. If there's 2 or 3 guys there that are there still have some eligibility, it wouldn't hurt them to play at Louisville and to play in the same conference with North Carolina and Duke and all that. So there is a number of possibilities there, and so that's why he's on the list. So there's there's, as I said, there's also going to be people who are on that list who could be coaching and doing well in the A10, or they could be coaching in the Big East, or they could be coaching, in a number of places. I mean, that job, because it pays so well, is a job that a lot of people are going to want. And I got to tell you, I mean, I've been to Louisville. There is no pro sports in the state of Kentucky, but the closest thing to a pro sports team in Kentucky is is both Louisville and University of Kentucky basketball. That's it. It's Louisville. It's all about the Cardinals, and they spend money, and they have one of the best athletic departments in the country.
Yeah, and I think it's very evident that how important the teams are to the fan base. They've got a great fan base. They're always there supporting them. And that's why I'm optimistic. As garbage as they've been the last few years, I'm optimistic just from seeing what they did with the football program. They can turn this basketball program about. It's all about bringing in the right coach who's going to bring in the right players. It just takes one decision, but that's the most important decision. And then you just let it trickle down. So I'm optimistic for this Louisville program. It's just all about, who they're going to hire. That's really the next step.
Yeah. And, on your point on the football situation, I mean, we're talking about, we're talking about a situation where they play at Papa John's Stadium. They have, they've built that thing out really nice. The stadium is great. The fans are insane, and you get to play at a solid. It's a program that that the fans are going to show up, win or lose. They have good fans, and they may or may not totally fill the place up every game, but they're they're better than some of those schools where half the stadium is full or half the arena is full. Not at Louisville. Louisville, they definitely are good about making sure that he's the guy. So whoever it is, we'll definitely keep an eye on him. Right now, as I said, Dusty May at FAU is one of the candidates. Uh, Darren DeVries. Darren is the coach at Drake. A lot of people like him. He's been really, really good. Lamont Paris. Now that name is interesting because of this. He's coaching right now in the SEC at South Carolina. Okay, he's the guy that's got South Carolina in a position where nobody thought they would be. I thought, as I told you and the folks on the show before last week, that when we were talking about South Carolina being, in getting a high seed in the SEC tournament, I thought you were talking about the women's team, who's always good. But Lamont Paris could very well be somebody who looks at that Louisville job and says, you know what, South Carolina's nice, it's in the SEC, but I'm going to take the money, and Louisville's going to give it to me.
Yeah, and
Now,
it's funny
yeah,
because
go ahead.
South Carolina, I know I've compared Sam Houston to them, but South Carolina, in a sense, is kind of like South Florida, where they're at the top of the conference, and yet they're still disrespected. If you look at the odds makers, there's something like 7th to 9th to win this tournament alone. You got teams like Mississippi State and teams like that ahead of them. So it's one of those things where he's doing a great job. This team's flown under the radar all season. Even when they're good, they're still flying under the radar. I'm curious to see the kind of damage they do in the NCAA tournament, because I totally agree. Lamont Paris maybe is the guy. Now, is he going to leave South Carolina is the real question, because especially if they make a deep run in the NCAA tournament, I mean, what incentive do you have to leave? You just built this program up.
Now, here's a guy whose name is synonymous with basketball, okay? And that's Scott Drew. Scott Drew's been the head coach of Baylor for 21 seasons. National champions in 2021. I think the money and the fact that he has Louisville connections with a number of some of his former coach, assistant coaches and such have gone on to play to work there. And here's a guy who he's 63 years old, but don't rule out Bruce Pearl at Auburn. Bruce is one of those guys who understands how to turn programs around, and depending upon how things go in the Pac-12 tournament, Mick Cronin at UCLA is also somebody who has changed things around. I mean, he got Murray State to the tournament. He got Cincinnati to the tournament. Obviously, he's gotten UCLA to the tournament. So it's not like there's guys that these are name guys who would be leaving name programs. Will Wade at McNeese State. A lot of people think he's the guy who should get the next opportunity, and so we'll see how that goes. Jerome Tang, who's got Kansas State. So there's not a there's not a lack of people who could get that job, or who would want that job. There's probably people lining up, and we'll see how it pans out. But that's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah.
So, uh, changing topics for just a sec. The NFL just came across. The NFL is is exploring the possibility of tampering in the deals with Saquon Barkley and also with the deal with Kirk Cousins. So we'll keep an eye on that. They feel that there might have been some hanky panky going on there. So we'll keep an
Show me a
eye.
deal that doesn't have tampering involved.
Uh,
Like,
it's, yeah.
did you see what happened with Calvin Ridley?
No, what happened?
So Calvin Ridley signed with the Tennessee Titans yesterday.
Yeah.
He waited till he was officially,
Mm-hmm.
unemployed by the NFL, and
Right.
now people are speculating because his odds to sign with the Titans were plus 1,800 compared to
Uh-oh.
minus 300 for the Jaguars. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, he waited till he was unemployed by the NFL. So if he placed a bet on himself to sign with the Titans, he wouldn't be violating anything. And I believe he even tweeted something out that was like, playing chess, not checkers over here. So, you don't get the money that you want.
So,
Place
right.
a little literally bet on yourself there, and he's Titan
So,
now.
so he became a free agent
Yeah.
and made the bet and then signed with the Titans. Okay. You know,
Plus 1,800. Just people are speculating, right?
it's hey,
none
it's
of this is,
legal.
yeah,
It's
we
legal.
don't know, but a lot of people are speculating because, he was minus 300 for the Jags. We saw the Falcons. They had the inside scoop on Kirk
Hmm.
Cousins there. So the odds don't lie. So
No,
something fishy when the plus 1,800 team signs you,
it
just
was
saying.
funny. Our buddy Rock Riley yesterday at Baker Mayfield's press conference um, asked Baker two questions. One question was, um, you saw what Kirk Cousins got. Did it upset you that you didn't get as much money? And Baker's like, I got life altering money. He goes, and I got to play for the team that I want to play for. So why would I be upset about what Kurt got? Whatever Kurt got. But he goes, because you really think that, the amount of money that the team's paying me, which is, guaranteed 50 million. And he's right. There's like, yes, there are people who are, saving their dollars right now to come and watch us. You know, why would I be upset with Kirk? God. And then he asked him, uh, "Did you call Tristan Wirth you know, whenever you did the deal, whenever you accepted the deal from Jason Light?" And he said, "I didn't have to." He says, "Why?" He says, "He was sitting across from me at breakfast." So evidently he and Tristan now are buddies. If you're a quarterback, you want the left tackle to be your best friend. and so that's the blind side is the guy you want to taking care of you. And if he and Tristan are tight, that's a good sign for keeping Mister Mayfield upright
Well,
for a
that's
couple of
exactly
years.
why he was across the table at breakfast.
That's right. It probably being served by Baker to him. So there you go in that one. But yeah, it's we don't know. I mean, some interesting things are going on. We'll take one quick last look. We know real quick on the players. Obviously, that has not changed. Xander, Seffel, and Rory McIlroy are tied atop the leaderboard at 7 under. Nick Taylor, Tommy Hodge, and Jason Day are at 5 under. And so, we'll keep you posted on that one tomorrow as well. Real quick look at the scoreboard. Uh, Texas Tech just went final with BYU. That's 81-67 in the Big 12 tournament. So Tulsa, East Carolina. Tulsa, it's a close one. East Carolina beating Tulsa by 3 with 11 seconds left to go in that game on ESPNU. It looks like East Carolina might sneak by on that one. Another close one, Mississippi State is beating LSU in an 8-9 game in the SEC, and that's on the SEC network. 58-54. Bowling Green, Central Michigan. 13 minutes left to go in that one, and that's 37-36 at the moment, with 13 minutes to go in the second half. That's on ESPN Plus, and I think we already talked about. We talked about. Kent State took out Toledo. We talked about that. St. Joe's took out Richmond. We talked about them. VCU and Massachusetts. There's 2 minutes and 43 seconds left to go in this one, and VCU looks like they're gonna roll. I'm sorry, it's first half. My apologies. It's 38-23 VCU blowing Massachusetts out of the building. It just started Wisconsin and Maryland. Wisconsin's off to a quick start there, 33-15. That game is on the Big Ten Network if you want to watch it. Over on FS1 is Seton Hall and St. John's. And very early in the first half, I'm sorry. FS1, it's St. John's by a bucket over Seton Hall. Is there anybody else playing? Pitt and Wake just started 17-14. Pitt is up on Wake. Yet to start on ESPN. That was on ESPN too, if you want to watch it. ESPNU, Memphis and Wichita has not started yet. CBS Sports Network, Utah State and Fresno has not started as of yet. And as we said before, Jerry Stackhouse is out as Vandy's head coach, and Oklahoma State fired Mike Boynton. Okay, so if you're interested in getting a college coaching job, there's 2 openings right there for you. So anyway, there we go. We've blown through the scoreboard. We give you what's going on the leaderboard at the over at the players. And one last thing, we just got this out. The new CFP the new CFP payouts, and that's going to be the percentage of money given out in 2026. The SEC will get 23%. I rounded up on these folks, so don't worry about it. The SEC is going to get 23%. Big 10 is going to get 21%. ACC is going to be 13%. Big 12 is going to be 12%. So there you go. That's how that's going to go. We will talk more about that at a different time, but just wanted to get you the latest information on what's going on. So there you go. But more importantly, before we get out of here, 2 things. Anything happen on the soccer side? Because soccer on Wednesday sometimes can be a busy day. Anything over there that we should need to know about, Amadeus?
Yeah, there's just some Europa League matches today. Some exciting ones. You got Atalanta and Sporting should be a good one. Brighton and Roma as well. Even though Roma has a 4-0 lead on aggregate, and Aston Villa and Ajax play. That one's tied 0-0 on aggregate in the Conference League. So that's going to be a bit of an interesting one as well.
Wow, there you go. All right. More importantly, I'm pretty sure you probably have some things that people were going to want to go down into our show box and check out for tonight.
Yeah, make sure you check out my premium picks at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. Links in the description below. I got a lot of plays up for tonight in a bunch of different sports. Hard to keep track. Some have started already, some haven't. So just make sure you go check that out. There's tons of action tonight.
And check it out every day. Don't just do it today. Do it early and often, and you're going to be someone who is going to come on here and show us the winning ticket. You can tweet it to us. We'll take a look at it. But do us a favor before we get out of here. We got a whole bunch of folks here. We would love it if you just subscribe, hit the bell, and like us. We're very likable people. So just subscribe, hit the bell, and like us. Leave comments. We will answer them. Okay. So anyway, we have had a lot of fun letting talking and about the the conference tournaments leading into the NCAA tournaments, about the amazing situation today that Ryan Fox made history at the TPC by eagling 16 and acing 17, which highlights, if you're a golf fan, you're going to want to see those highlights. And talking about the potential of tampering going on in the NFL. So we've covered it all for you today, and that's what we're here to do. So we hope that you enjoy it, and we hope that you'll be back with us tomorrow, because it's going to be a crazy Thursday right here. And I hope that you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Actually, it's going to be a crazy Friday tomorrow, right? Am I wrong here? I
Oh
got my
yeah,
days straight up. It's a Friday. Okay, get it
yeah.
right, Jim. It's going to be a crazy Friday. That's what it's going to be, and we hope that you join us, because the weekend's going to be nuts, and it's going to be all college basketball all the time tomorrow. Okay, everybody. All right. Until then, for Amadeus, I'm Jim. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow at 2:00.